This is the best interview I've ever had in my life. I love your line of questioning and getting to what is real. I hooked into Tim, has a childlike quality to him, and I stay with that innocence. And don't take that innocence as weakness. When I read the scripture, I feel truth, good, evil, and I find the good, and let that just pierce the darkness.
Hello, everyone watching and listening. Today I have the pleasure of speaking to two people. Someone you most likely know for his portrayal of Jesus of Nazareth in Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel, and also someone you should know, if you don't already, the man behind Operation Underground Railroad, Tim Ballard. We discussed the new film, The Sound of Freedom, wherein Mr. Caviezel plays Tim Ballard in the telling of his real-life story, detailing his fight against the increasingly worldwide and pervasive childhood sex trade. The film, The Sound of Freedom, releases on July 4th. So about a week and a half ago, I got a text message from Tony Robbins suggesting that I watch a new film called The Sound of Freedom. And I did that about 4 days ago with my wife, Tammy, and was quite struck by the movie. And I decided to follow up on it. It details out the efforts of one man, Tim Ballard, to investigate a child sexual slave ring and to rescue the children that were associated with that. But it also points to a broader social problem, which is the spread of sexual and slave trafficking worldwide, abetted by the net, which is a great avenue for psychopathic criminals to pursue their darkest desires with very little risk of being caught, especially on the multinational basis. So I've decided to reach out to Tim Ballard, who is the man who the movie is about, and to Jim Caviezel, who's the actor that plays him, to talk about what all this signifies. And so, Tim, let's start with you. I mean, the movie makes the case that there is a widely expanding network of slavery, essentially making itself manifest worldwide, concentrating in no small part on very young children who are being sold repeatedly to pedophilic psychopaths to have at their will, and of course can be sold repeatedly for that purpose. And the movie makes the case that this is now an operation that's rivaling the drug trade in magnitude. So, it sounds like yet another right-wing conspiracy. So please, why don't you walk us through what you know and help me understand, and everybody watching and listening, exactly what you think is going on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jordan. We're so grateful you take your time to do this with us. So I spent 12 years as a special agent, undercover operator with the Department of Homeland Security. Most of my time, 90% of that time, was spent investigating these cases, child crimes, child trafficking. And in fact, those numbers are correct, that are these are Department of Labor, UN, these are sources that, the best we have, that say that there's close to 6 million children or more who are forced into sex slavery, labor slavery, or organ harvesting. And I can attest that I have been involved in cases involving all three of those forms of slavery multiple times, and is a real thing. It's not even far from home. The United States is the #1 consumer year after year of child rape material. And oftentimes we're close to #1 in production. And it's a serious matter. The case, the story in Sound of Freedom kicks off with the rescue of a little boy at the port of entry at the southern border. That's a real story, a real boy that I was on that port of entry. I was 10 years on the southern border. So when you have 85,000 unaccompanied minors showing up in the last 2 years, being let into the country without the sponsor being vetted, DNA checked, background checked. I call it the economy of pedophilia. The United States, we're the demand. 85,000 children, thousands of them are under 5 years old, are let into the country. So we have a serious problem, and it's not being addressed as it should be. Hopefully, this film can do that.
What has been your experience with regard to so-called mainstream media or legacy media coverage? How much attention has been paid to this, and if not much, why? And if reasonably, who and how?
Well, I think not very much has been. Attention has been given by mainstream media. Oftentimes, it's more innocent than cynical, perhaps, where it's just, this is too dark. I don't want to expose our audience to this horrific thing. We film our operations. I mean, I'm going to post today another operation in West Africa of a baby factory. I mean, these are real cases where they've kidnapped women, as young as 13-year-olds and children, and they impregnate them, they rape them, and they make babies, and they take these babies and sell them for their organs, sell them for sex, sell them for satanic ritual abuse. Like, it does sound crazy. That's why I film it. We film our operations so that we can show the world this is very real. It's really happening. And I think if there's 2 million children forced into commercial sex, which is the most kind of credible statistic that we can find, a lot of people are involved. So there is a more cynical answer to your question, which may be there's people that don't want this exposed because they're involved in it.
So I'm going to harass you a bit here from the Wikipedia page. There is some, not that I'm a particular fan of Wikipedia pages, depending on the circumstances, but there are some criticisms of what you're doing, and I thought we might as well address them right off the bat, because people who are watching are going to be, look, man, if I was coming across this for the first time, and in some ways I am, I've got two choices in front of me, don't I? I can either presume that you've discovered something that's ongoing and of tremendous significance, that's terribly dark, or I can assume that the difficult work that you had done for a decade, genuinely addressing these problems, has made you hypersensitive to a threat and willing to magnify it, and it would be easier just to ignore you as a consequence. Now, that would be the preferable outcome to such an investigation, wouldn't it? So you can, as you said, you can understand why people might want to avert their eyes from such a thing. So I'm going to walk through these criticisms, and maybe you could, you can respond to them, and we can get that out of the way before we go deeper into the film and your operations. So your group, and this is Operation Underground Railroad, and tell me if I get anything wrong here, says it devours conspiracy theories, though founder Tom Ballard was criticized for refusing to condemn the QAnon conspiracy theory. I have no idea what the hell that means. Do you know what that's referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. We that's a lie on Wikipedia. We have absolutely in our FAQs for years have condemned the majority of what we see with conspiracy theories. So they like to attribute me to the QAnon movement. There may be some truths in there, but there's so many falsehoods on top of that. So our FAQs refute that immediately because it discredits the movement. In fact, I would go so far as to consider that maybe certain people who don't want this known are responsible for some of the conspiracy theories in order to discredit the movement. And they go too far. They go too far in their assessment of things. But yeah, we absolutely have disavowed what's generally coming out of QAnon.
Yeah, well, it says, it's very vague on Wikipedia. It says to condemn the QAnon conspiracy theory. Well, I know perfectly well that there are more than one conspiracy theories, let's say, on QAnon, so I'm not even exactly sure what it's referring to. What is there a particular conspiracy theory that you were criticized for refusing to condemn? Do you have any more specific details about that?
I mean, I'm not sure what exactly they're talking about. They might be referring to the fact that there's something called adrenochrome, where they're taking children's blood and devouring it and so forth. And I've explained my experience with that, and I just did in West Africa and other places. We've seen this in several parts of the continent of Africa, and it's very real. It's very real. This witch doctory. They take these children. They take their organs. They take their blood. They drink it. They take the genitalia of children and hang it over the rooftop of their businesses, thinking that the dark gods will bless them. These are real things.